to take a blowtorch to the regulatory state, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, these agencies have been weaponized against the people. And it's crushing the free market. It's like a boot on the neck of job creators and entrepreneurs and risk takers. And so healthcare is one of the sectors, but we need this across the board. And Trump's going to go big. I mean, he's only going to have one more term, right? Can't run for re-election. And so he's going to be thinking about legacy, and we're going to fix all these things. And,
no Obamacare?
No Obamacare. Yeah, the ACA is so deeply ingrained. We need massive reform to make this work, and we got a lot of ideas on how to do that.
Do you? On Monday, House Speaker Mike Johnson promised that House Republicans will once again try to do away with Obamacare if Trump wins the presidential election. Now, look, it's very likely an unwise stance given how the electorate feels about the Affordable Care Act, and he's saying this right before the election, but notice how it barely got any attention. Now, 62% of adults had favorable views of the law in April, and that's up from 38% a decade earlier, and that's according to KFF, a nonprofit health policy research, polling, and news organization. And despite the popularity of Obamacare, Trump has, in fact, crusaded against it for just about, the entirety of his political career. So in his first interview after being elected as president in 2016, he said that repeal and replace would be done simultaneously. He had some concepts of replacements, except he didn't. On his first day in office, Trump signed an executive order proclaiming, "It is the policy of my administration to seek the prompt repeal of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act."
Hey, it's not fair of you to remove the part of his statement that talks about replacing it, right? It wouldn't have just said he's gonna repeal it, right?
It just said that. There was no, I think it's pretty clear that there has been no work done on the Republican side in regard to a different option to the Affordable Care Act, because they've never really had any interest of repealing and replacing it. They've just wanted to repeal it. And just last November, Trump said this, the cost of Obamacare is out of control, plus it's not good health care. I'm seriously looking at alternatives. We had a couple of Republican senators who campaigned for 6 years against it and then raised their hands not to terminate it because it's popular. That's why they realized that there would be consequences. It was a low point for the Republican Party, but we should never give up. Yes, keep going. Important goals here, right? Doing away with some of the patient protections that were given to patients as a result of the Affordable Care Act, which I will admit is not perfect. I will admit did not do enough in order to keep healthcare costs for Americans affordable and lower, but instead of building off of it and improving it, they just want to repeal it. And remember, the Affordable Care Act does come with incredibly important patient protections.
Yeah, I love that that's the low point. When I think back in the last decade, the low point was when they didn't kill a wildly popular program. Yeah, he's been very clear. The replace stuff, it's like exceptions for abortion. It's a thing you have to say because you acknowledge that your position is really unpopular. You're still gonna do it, but it's unpopular and you would prefer not to suffer any political backlash. You'll notice, by the way, Mike Johnson's like, we have plenty of ideas. Would you like to mention any of them? I'd be very interested in some specifics, but he doesn't want to. By the way, he has things he wants to do. I have no doubt that they will do it. It's not about repealing and replacing, it's about shredding. They're gonna shred the protections that you're referencing. That's it, because there's nothing else that they want for healthcare. Their goal is not better protections, access, and affordability for regular people. It's to free the healthcare industry from the unfair shackles that the commies put on them under Obama. That's all it is.
This whole system is so broken. I mean, even under the Affordable Care Act, the system is broken, but there are protections like allowing people to remain on their parents' healthcare plan up to the age of 26, ensuring that people can't be denied healthcare coverage due to a pre-existing condition. These are important. There are price caps on how much you spend out of pocket on healthcare per year. That's an incredibly important protection. I remember when my husband had a very serious shoulder surgery. Oh my God, if that price cap didn't exist, we would have been crushed. Yeah. And that's with health insurance. And so these protections are important, guys. It doesn't mean that our healthcare system is working fantastically, like everything is great. No, but we should definitely focus on what we can do to improve upon the Affordable Care Act, improve the system that we currently have. And that's not what's being offered by the Republican Party. And I have an issue with that. And as you guys know, if they were offering something that I thought sounded good, I would be honest about it. But they haven't offered a replacement. So I can't even analyze what they're offering because there is no offer. There's just this effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act, and I can't back that or support that because I think that's a horrible, horrible idea.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of the guy who goes in to replace Michael Scott as manager of The Office, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna give you the plan. No, you give me the job, and then you'll get the plan. I'm not gonna just give it away. No, it's our health that's on the line. It's our bank account that's on the line. It's literally our lives. We're not just gonna put you in. But the crazy thing is, like Mike Johnson knows the stuff that he wants to do, the stuff that JD Vance wants to do, the stuff that Donald Trump will allow them to do. I don't think he really has many thoughts about any of this, are gonna be devastating, and not just to those damn libs. There are so many unhealthy and aging conservatives who will be financially wrecked by the changes that they'll make. And young conservatives who will be super happy initially at the new low-priced plans that come out once all the regulations are gone, and then oops, it's not healthcare. You have no protections whatsoever if you actually have an emergency. Their own voters are gonna be screwed over. And I guess they hope that they won't pay any price for that. That even once conservatives realize things are way worse than they were just a few years ago, I guess, Sean Hannity is gonna be trying to bamboozle them into being more worried about Colombians or something. Like they're hoping they can escape culpability for the stuff they're planning to do right now.
So recently Trump has slightly changed his tune, saying in a September debate that he would keep the lousy law in place. Is he not merciful? While acknowledging he still hopes to replace it with something much better.
Oh, that's specific.
Yeah,
it is much better.
Yeah.
I like better things.
But that's not much reassurance, as you guys can imagine, given his previous stance on the issue, combined with his party's readiness to basically do Big Pharma's bidding. In fact, this September, multiple high-ranking Republicans told Axios that they want to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act's Medicare drug price negotiations next year if they prevail in the elections. Really looking out for those working class voters, no?
I'm trying to remember, I know that between 2020 and now, conservatives were really focused on pharma, but I don't remember if they suddenly liked it a lot more or hated it more. I guess they must have started to love it because they're supporting people who are doing all of their bidding.
100%.
It's so bizarre.
So Representative Buddy, his name's Buddy, Representative Buddy Carter from Georgia said the Inflation Reduction Act drug pricing provisions are the worst legislation I've ever witnessed in 10 years in Congress and 10 years in the state legislature. And he absolutely wants to repeal them. Okay, other than like saying that you think they're awful, okay, well, why? Can you explain why you think it's a bad idea for the Medicare system to simply be able to negotiate drug prices with pharmaceutical companies to ensure that they get the best possible price? Because remember, the Medicare system is funded by us, the American taxpayers. So why are we going to be price gouged by pharmaceutical companies because there are bans on allowing the Medicare system to negotiate for lower drug prices? How does that make any sense?
Well, are you being funded by the pharma industry? Because he might be, in which case it does make a certain sense.
That's a good point. That's a good point. By the way, it's also worth noting that according to Open Secrets, Mike Johnson has taken $248,908 from the pharmaceuticals and health products industry over the course of his pretty short career, relatively speaking.
That's not enough money for him to be this much of a bitch for them.
It doesn't take much, okay? They could be bought real cheap.
Exactly.
If you enjoyed this video, that's because of our members. They make us independent, they make us strong, and they make us honest. Become a member today by hitting the join button below.